We're crossing over now to Cross River State, where we've got His Excellency Professor Ben Ayade, Governor of Cross River State, joining us this morning. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, people are always talking about these two states, Kogi and your state, as the only two states who don't have any reported or confirmed case, and thankfully so. But how are you handling your strategy in ensuring that things remain this way?
Well, essentially speaking, I'd like to also commend my colleague, the governor of Kogi State, for doing his best to keep Kogi COVID-19 free. I will have a better information on my own state and give my own perspective. As you're well aware, as soon as we started reading in the papers and watching on television globally the impact of this pandemic, what we did as a state was to quickly respond to it by locking out our states against the virus. So we actually didn't lock down, we locked out the states, and so blocked our borders immediately and commenced no mask, no movement. So that we started right on time. We are proactive and we have continued to sustain that. But you're also aware that by virtue of our location, we're just sharing a boundary with the Cameroons. And it's such that it is almost impossible that we are still having COVID-19 case negative. But what we did was we ordered over 100 brand new vehicles, policed all our borders between Nigeria and Cameroon, including the legal and the illegal borders, ensured that we blocked all access to other states coming in or going out of Cross River State, closed our airways. In fact, if you remember, a team of about 35 Americans flew in from the US into Cross River, got into Lagos, got clearance to come to Calabar. I refused them landing until I got a certificate from NCDC to confirm that they were COVID-19 free. And so we've been very, very deliberate. Our structural and normative action plan is so firm. I lead from the front. I spend nights myself personally at vigil in the various entry and exit points to demonstrate to my commissioners, my special advisors, my senior special advisors and special advisors that if the governor himself can stay nights at our border points, you should do so. So our borders are being manned by only very senior government officials to ensure that there is no compromise at that point. And so I think that's the strategy that has really worked for us. Also doing tracing, surveillance, training a lot of people. We train about 400 surveillance officers every 2 weeks. So that training is so massive. And so for every single primary health center, we have enough hands to be able to go around each community, and we go to private and public health centers and hospitals. If you have somebody with this kind of symptoms, quickly alert this number. My Commissioner of Health, who is the chairman of the COVID-19 response team, very, very young and very agile, very intelligent and smart. So she works 24 hours. And so as soon as we have any reported case, we swim in immediately, pick up the patient, do the proper survey and do the surveillance, do tracing, following the persons they have had contact with, and watch them over time. And the samples we've collected so far, we have sent to the lab, and they have all returned negative. And just yesterday, NCDC and indeed Federal Ministry of Health just left here and giving us a very good pass mark. Very impressed with our laboratory, very impressed with our isolation center, very impressed with the checkpoints they've seen to enforce the nose mask, very impressed with our border closures. Indeed, they also worked very hard, and I must commend the Minister of Health. I must also commend the DG of NCDC. The team they sent here were very, very thorough, and I'm sure they are shocked at the level of sophistication of our preparedness as a state. And I will continue to sustain this until this COVID-19 pandemic is over. And I'm sure with God on our side, we shouldn't have any case at all. We're really prepared for it.
All right, but there are those who have the impression, listening to the NCDC, that the state is not testing enough, that you can't measure properly if you don't test enough.
Yes. I'm also trying to make sure that I choose the appropriate language so that I protect the integrity of NCDC and their claim for testing and what is professionally right. Let me once more again thank NCDC and of course the Federal Minister of Health, because if you look at what they have done in relationship to what is happening globally, they have maintained the best practice, because that is the international best practice as it is today. Looking at their response, their action, their strategy, they have absolutely done well. But as a professional, as a professor of science, I know that we are also not customizing the action plan that reflects our situation and originality. As a nation, you can't just throw money in the hands of manufacturers of test reagents just because you want to test. You only test when there's a suspicion that cause for concern. I give you an example. Responsibility of support of test kits lies with government, federal government. We've got 50 test kits. We don't know when this pandemic will end. And I just go into the street and test people when I know that the test method which is being used today lacks reproducibility, it lacks reliability. The coronavirus itself is an N coronavirus, meaning it's novel, meaning it's unknown. So its primers is synthetic. The reverse transcript test itself is synthetic. This is not a diagnostic technique. It is just related to enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, as it's used for viruses generally. And we all know that their reliability is very low. And so for you to ascribe a test on a person and to say this person is confirmed that is carrying the virus, there are certain principles in science that we must obey. Let me take one from plant pathology called the Koch postulate. For you to actually say that somebody has breath problem, difficulty in breathing, having catarrh, is coughing, is having fever, elevated body or pyrexia, you put all the various symptoms together and you say that it's coronavirus and coronavirus, the test you must perform, it's just too much. It's not just enough to do a rapid diagnostic test. The PCR is a presumptive test. And I cannot go into that generalization as a professional to do that which is being done, because out there in the Western world, there's a businessman funding all of this, making sure that they sell reagents. Indeed, my friend out of Switzerland is telling me a Chinese say he has made so much money importing reagents out of Philippines, shipping to the world. So it's turned into a full-scale business. Why would I be testing somebody who has not come in contact with somebody who's got the virus? I will only test when I have reasons to test, when I have seen symptoms. But if NCDC continues to lower the criteria just to get more people testing, I begin to wonder, because we may have to exhaust the entire account of this country to be able to support the testing regime as proposed by the new criteria so set. And I think that I cannot follow blindly. I must lead from the front because I'm exposed, I'm smart, I know what I need. Today, as I speak, if you come to Cross River State, what you can do, just go through the various hospitals, public and private, and see the statistics. Nobody can hide coronavirus incident. You cannot hide it if you have a case. So we have not seen a situation in any hospital that they have called us that we have not responded immediately. The few that have called, we have responded, collected samples, and have sent to them. 9 samples in all. Go and check across the 36 states. Not many states have submitted up to 9 samples. So testing, as it were, is just a way of just trying to show just politically right thing to do. But I can tell you, this testing, the coronavirus, have gone econopolitical. For the US, for example, it's about their November elections. And for some businessmen, it's about more reagents, more money. But for me, it is science, it is reality. And because a wrong mentality will give you a wrong reality, I have the right mentality to do tracing, and only contact tracing can help you identify who to be tested. I cannot go to the street and test blindly. I'm a scientist, please.
Well, Your Excellency, does that suggest that in this country at the moment we're being exploited?
Of course, no doubt about that. No doubt about that at all. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No doubt. Because I can take you through the testing method. Again, this is not a scientific platform. I could take you through reverse transcriptase, RNA conversion into DNA, its amplification technique, the electrophoresis, and tell you where all the missing gaps are. How do you get the primer, the generation of the primer as part of the test kit and its amplification process? If I pass you through the whole science, we don't have to be a scientist to see the loopholes where you can see, oh, here is the business element. Ask you a question. Why can't Nigeria produce our test kits? Why can't we? Why can't we have our own vaccination plan to produce our vaccines? Why can't we? You have professors of biology. Nigerians are endowed, very intelligent people by nature, very resilient, very hardworking. I just don't know why we can't lead Africa properly. By this time, Nigeria should prove that we can actually not just close our borders to the virus, but close our borders to the solution. Let us find our own solutions locally. The statistics shows that in any case, Nigeria comes under the malaria endemic region. And so because there is a relationship, there is a correlation, even in the protein structure of Refin versus interferon, you see that both malaria and coronavirus, they share so much in common that for us who are in the malaria endemic zone, we are naturally almost immune to the coronavirus. Indeed, even our own temperature here is such that when you sneeze, if the virus escapes, it's escaping into hellfire because it can't stand an atmospheric temperature of 32 degrees centigrade. Sometimes in Nigeria, we go up to 42 degrees. So I just sympathize with this our follow the West syndrome. And I think time has come when we must change that completely. We are really exploited as a continent. And that's why I'm happy with what Madagascar has done. Nigeria ought to do that and much better, much, much better. We can't even cultivate Artemisinin annua to synthesize and produce artemisinin, and from where we can now produce our malaria drugs. That's very simple pharmacognosy. But there we are. As a country, I think that the universities feel betrayed by the government because you can't bring back very brilliant people like Professor Andy that is brought back from Japan, working with us here in Calabar. I have actually started my own research on the production of vaccine. But again, it's not something I even want to make a big news out of it. I would just wish I run a state that was a little more enabled. If you know the income of my state, then you know that people are right when they call me a magician. But Nigeria is exploited. Africans have been exploited. We must shut our doors. We have our local health. We have pharmacologists. We have pharmacognostics that can actually join hands with microbiologists and professors of immunology with the support of the federal government, setting up a vaccine production plan, and we can drive the process. If Nigeria fails, who will in Africa? And that's why they say the black man thinks only from the stomach.
Let me one moment, Your Excellency. Let me quickly take you back to something my colleague asked the other time about whether or not Cross River State is testing enough. You said that you have had to man personally with top government officials the main borders that come into Cross River State. How about the communities and what some call illegal entries into the various states that we have? Of course, you know your state is bordered by 4 states that have confirmed cases, Benue, including Benue, Akwa Ibom, and Abia State. How can you confirm that there is no single case in any of those communities when your state is bordered by 4 different states with confirmed cases of coronavirus disease?
Well, in addition to those 4 states, we also have Cameroon. And like I said earlier, we have so many illegal routes. So we did a surveillance and understood all the illegal routes, including the legal and the illegal routes, including those that you just have to walk through a stream. In fact, somewhere back in Buki, just Cameroon and Nigeria is so simply separated by a small stream that you can just walk across. All of those places are being manned. We have 38 commissioners. Each commissioner is on one border. We have about 114 special advisors. Each person is in one border post or the other, with other staff attached, plus the police, plus the civil defense, plus the Peace Corps. All of them are manning these borders. And so it is almost impossible for you to cross, except situations where we have people on essential duties that have been exempted. And when even you are exempted, you're coming in with a petroleum product or you're coming to take petroleum product from the Cross River tank farm, we must escort you, discharge, and take you out. But again, we have challenges because you have fugitive escapes. But again, the surveillance, and in all of these points, we do your testing in terms of the body temperature and what have you. But let me come to the real issue. Testing and confirmed cases. Testing does not give you an idea of the level. testing just gives you a spatial distribution metrics of the possibility of spread. And it's conceptual and it is only theoretical. The reality is that if somebody is down, he's sick, and is coming down with that virus, he will not be strong enough to be struggling to cross the border because it's so hectic to enter Cross River State. The queue is as long as your eyes can see. So for you to struggle to enter into Cross River, I'm sure you must be in a state of good health. Assuming you are an asymptomatic carrier, by the time you come through, your body temperature will show, because as soon as the virus establishes itself on you, what it will happen is that it will create the accelerated production of mucus, which will generate elevated temperature because it will be relying on the glycoprotein. So when that happens, your temperature elevation will go up. So if you have a normal temperature, you're not sneezing, and you're healthy, and you're still being locked out anyway, I don't see how Cross River will have this virus. I don't see it. Besides, our people are very, very, very responsible. We're a very civilized state. They say, wear your mask. Everybody is putting on this mask. In fact, NCDC just left here yesterday. They have confessed to us that this is the state that has responded best in terms of public compliance, in terms of checkpoints to control, in terms of public awareness, and the drive on the vehicles, and every minute they're hearing the campaign on coronavirus. I think we're really well prepared, but I don't think people should make a mistake and say the more the testing, the more the assurance. The more the testing, the more the false positive test, the more the wrong message, the more the marketing and sales of the test kits. But that is not the true, real statistics situation of your state. You will check from the hospitals, you will check from cases that have come before you in your primary health centers. That is what you will use to know who and who to survey. Because without contact tracing, without having a relationship that connotes that somebody has come to this primary health center, and for every ward in Cross River State, we have a functional primary health center. I just recruited 2,000 primary health workers last year. So there is no part of the health center that we don't have people.
Okay, let me put this in, Your Excellency. We understand that you've allowed the churches to go back to worship. What informed that decision?
We have zero case of coronavirus. We have all our borders locked and sealed. It's not idiot-proof, but we have them locked and sealed. We're healthy. We have never closed down our economy. So the economy is doing very well. Spiritual economy. There is a need. The Bible is very clear on it. People must come together for praise and worship. It's not enough for you to have a direct communion with God. So there is no amount. What is life itself anyway? It's that you would forsake your Creator. And I think for the level of public safety we have achieved, we feel fairly comfortable and stable. And remember, we also not just say, go and start your worship. We have prescribed conditions under which that will happen, and emphasize clearly that our surveillance team, our monitoring team, our COVID-19 response team will go to every of such places of worship to ensure that there is proper ventilation, hand sanitizer, hand wash facilities provided, proper nose masks done, and respect all the protocols that is required. But I can tell you, how is the church much worse than the marketplace?
We will come back to this conversation in just a moment, but we need to go to break, so please don't go away. All right, welcome back. It's our concluding moments with His Excellency, Professor Ben Ayade, Governor of Cross River State. Your Excellency, we'll have about 2 questions in 2 minutes. We hope we can do this. Well, you did ask federal government to lift the ban, allow the airports function because this is impacting on the economy. But then we also remember that Nigeria Governors Forum came up with a resolution where they wanted this interstate restriction of movement, of which you're part of that. So isn't that going to be negating what the NGF had agreed if the federal government were to do that?
Well, when there's a sociology to this, I just want you to have a solemn reflection on this. Since the closure of the airports, hotels across the country have literally shut down. In Calabar today, you don't have any hotel that is open because they can't even guarantee the supply except for fuel. You can imagine those who work in those places, all out of work. Imagine those who supply food and other support services to the airlines, completely out of work. Imagine parents who have daughters and sons who depend on those daily sources of income, completely down economically. And you have continued to do this until there's a moral degeneracy in our society that you cannot have a luxurious home to produce a virtuous child. So when you send our daughters into prostitution as an alternative means of income, as our young men and women, as the young men in particular, get into criminality as a product of survival instinct, we don't realize that all of these little things add up. So you turn back and look at the provisions of Section 14, Subsection 2, that makes it clear that the welfare and security of citizens is the primary function of government. The welfare includes job creation, it includes food. And so when people don't have jobs, and you're shutting airlines, which is a nerve center of the people, and you do so just because you want to protect lives. But you must realize that you have to protect livelihoods. Life without livelihood creates a complete cataclysm in society, because the desperation to survive will end up taking more lives. In an attempt to enforce COVID-19 lockdown has taken more lives than COVID-19 virus itself. So we must realize that there are certain things, when taken to extreme, become vice. The superabundance of any performance whatsoever becomes detrimental to the performer. Moderation is the rule. Set standards, develop protocols for which the airlines will operate. Inter-city and inter-border closure, interstate closure, yes, it's appropriate because you have a mass movement at that level and control is limited. And I agree and I stand with the Governors Forum. But aircraft, you can regulate and control who boards an aircraft. You can develop framework as guidance for who will board. And I think federal government should do that urgently. Stretching for another 2 weeks, you might do that because your federal government, you have a federal mind to order so and install. But you know when the aircraft is down, you can't just go and start flying it. You have to go back through either a C check or the appropriate check. I won't board an aircraft that has been down for 1 month. I won't board it. Nobody would even allow you to fly it. And I know the Nigerian aviation is being led by a very effective minister. He will not let any aircraft unless you do the appropriate check. So look at the downtime on the aircraft, the economic loss to them, and the necessary tests to be done, and how many of such tests to be done here in Nigeria. So perhaps they have to take the aircraft abroad. So you're collapsing the economy.
Okay.
You are collapsing the economy, and this virus is not as dangerous, it's not in the way you would think. Our atmospheric temperature does not allow it spread at the speed that is envisaged.
Well,
please,
those are part of the controversial points, because I mean, you just saw some people asking questions about they are not quite sure because they've got other areas that are equally as hot, if not hotter, but they still have cases on an exponential level. And they also say, look, the PCR test is a valid means of testing, but unfortunately, we can't exploit some of these areas any further. Neither can we even ask about your budget. I think your President Olympic Mr. Massis, if he's taking a hit. But we'll see if we can get more time much later to talk about these matters. But we do thank you for your time this morning, Your Excellency, Governor Ben Ayade.